supply chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended Podcast, and the founder of the Blended Pledge. And I am back in my home studio. Last week, I was in Amsterdam, and I don't know if any of you caught the live stream last week from DPW, but I would love to hear your thoughts. I've had a few of you reach out to me on LinkedIn, said that you enjoyed the live stream, and I had a lot of fun. So I cannot wait to go back and do that next year. But before we go on to what is new, let's give a shout out to our show sponsors. So say you're at work and all the lights flicker and then go out. You try to move and bump into something, you turn and bump into something else. Well, you just can't work like this. You need to be able to see what's happening. Well, this is how your inventory feels. Fastenal has unique inventory solutions that sends data to the cloud and helps you avoid stockouts while not carrying excess inventory. Don't stay in the dark. Let Fastenal shine a light on the parts and supplies that keep your businesses running. Go to fastenal.com/LTSC and see how they do it. All right, let's get into what is new at Let's Talk Supply Chain. So we have a brand new episode for you. It's episode 365, wherever you listen to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast. And I was talking to OnFleet about the innovative last mile technology that they're bringing to the industry, the impact that they're making on the industry, and so much more. So go and check it out, because we talk all about, who they are, what they do, how they can help you as a potential client. But you can listen to it and see if you're the right fit for them or they're the right fit for you before you even reach out to them. What else is going on? Friday, we've got a brand new episode of Log Tech Live with Eric Johnson, and he's talking about differentiating in a crowded 3PL space. Now, I remember when I was in logistics working for a 3PL, this is something we talked about on the regular. So this is a do not miss episode if you are in the 3PL space. Make sure to click the attend button, because even if you can't attend it live, I will send you the link so that you can go and watch it. Next, on November 1st at 2 p.m. Eastern, I am going to be talking about AI-powered supply chains and how they're driving customer experience with some of the team at Esker. Now, you're not going to want to miss this one. Everybody's kind of talking about AI and how they can actually use it within their supply chains, but driving customer experience is a huge topic right now. So go and click the attend button, even if you can't attend live, and I will send you that recording. What else is happening? I've got a brand new, not episode, but I guess edition of the Monthly Hustle, which is my monthly newsletter over on LinkedIn. We've got over 13,000 subscribers, and everybody seems to be resonating with this one, because we're talking about the power of gratitude, what it means to your personal life, what it means to your professional life. Plus, I go through a little bit of where I've been, the conferences that I've been at, where I'm going to be next as well. So go and check that out. Make sure to subscribe. And next, what else do I have? Oh, I want to give you a sneak peek. So you've all heard me talk about the Secret Society of Supply Chain. Now, it's 3 groups. One is the Supply Chainers, which is exclusive content just for you that I've created with some of the top leaders in supply chain. Next is the Woman in Supply Chain monthly meetup group that's professionally facilitated. We're bringing everybody together on a monthly basis. And then the third one is the Creative Room. Now, that's for marketing professionals in supply chain. So if any of those sound like you definitely want to sign up. This is a sneak peek to the Supply Chainers. Now, we've got over 450 hours of content for you from some of the best and brightest in the industry, talking about technology, sustainability, best practices from some of the key supply chain leaders from Logitech, Macy's, Best Buy, Uber, and so much more. So definitely go and check it out. I just put that link in the comments so that you can go and sign up today because you do not want to miss out. I also want to thank everybody because we shared last week that I'm one of the top 200 content creators on LinkedIn, and I'm so grateful. I'm number 82, but I'm also in the number one position for the creators list in manufacturing, logistics, and supply chain in Canada. Now, that couldn't have happened with all of you. So I just want to say thank you so much for all of your support. And last but not least, we've got a new episode of The State of Dre, and they are talking about, this is sponsored by Envase. They're talking about the prediction is that increased rail volumes and dry bulk imports are going to make an impact on supply chains. So go and check that out. All of the links in the comments. If you're over on my personal LinkedIn, I will be updating it with all the links after the show. But now I've talked for way too long. Now it's time to bring up my guest for today, Alexis. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Sarah. I'm great.
Good. It's good to see you. I hear it's a little bit cold where you are.
Surprisingly, South Carolina is not normally cold like this, but you know what? We'll take it after a hot summer. I'm in for it. I like it.
Listen, I don't want to spend winters here because I don't like the cold either. So I'm totally with you. For anybody who doesn't know who you are, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Alexis Mizell-Pleasant. I'm managing editor at Food Logistics and Supply and Demand Chain Executive magazines. We cover supply chain, encompass everything in supply chain for SDC exec. And then for food logistics, we specifically cover the food supply chain. And that's kind of what I do.
Amazing. And I think you just opened up nominations for something, right? Can you
Yes,
talk about that?
one of our technology awards is open. We have tons of awards across the year. So if you are interested in people awards, or you're in the tech field and you're interested in a tech award, go on there. Both sites have different awards. If you're in the food supply chain, maybe there's something there for you. Or if you're just general supply chain, especially tech, you can check out SDC exec and find everything there. And we'd love to have you nominated.
Very cool. And Pros to Know is coming out soon too. So stay tuned for that one. Now, I want to say hi to Angela, Susan, Mohammed, Jennifer, Rick, and Audrey, and I think Peter as well, and Sashir and Sanjay over on my personal LinkedIn. Thanks so much to everybody who's tuned in. Now it's time for us to talk about the poll of the week. Now we're going to be talking a little bit more about this topic a little bit later on because Alexis wrote an amazing article about AI, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper. But this question that we ask you, and remember, we ask you this question every single Wednesday morning on LinkedIn and Instagram. So the question from last week, which emerging technology do you believe will have the most significant impact on supply chain management in the next 5 years? So 58% of you said artificial intelligence, 23% of you said robotic process automations, 10% of you said blockchain, which was very surprising to me, and 9% of you said Internet of Things. Now, if you're in the audience right now, we'd love to hear from you. So put in the comments, if you didn't have a chance to vote, put in the comments which one you think is going to make the most impact. But Alexis, was this surprising to you? Like, what do you think of the results of this poll?
No, all of those answers make sense, and all of them are being covered in the facet of supply chain. Obviously, AI is huge right now, from things like just simple chat GPT, how people are using that within their business practices, or data analytics, whatever it might be. AI has the potential to kind of have a hand in all of those things. And I love seeing robotics on the list as well, because we know that's huge in warehousing, and it's only getting bigger and better every single day. I don't know how it's being done, but it's incredible.
Right? I mean, it's a little bit crazy. And Krissa, hi Krissa. I hope you're doing well. It's been a while since I've seen you, but she's saying definitely AI is going to make the most impact. I mean, when we think about making the most impact between AI and robotics, I mean, if robotics are going to be able to take over some of the functions, I mean, they're talking about AI doing that as well. But I think from a physical standpoint, we're looking at robotics taking over some of those tasks that we're doing, like the automated pick and pack. right? That we don't need to do as necessarily a human being. We can do the tasks maybe at the end of that. They can pick and pack the products, put it into a package and send it out, which gives us way more time to be creative, innovative, strategic. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but is that kind of how you're thinking
Yeah,
about
and
it?
I almost envision it working together too, because at that end process where you're talking about creativity and stuff like that, AI has a really powerful opportunity there to help kind of spark some of those interests. Even just in what I do, writing and stuff, it's a great teeing off point. And I think people are a little scared of what it can do in the future, but as far as what it's doing right now, it's a starting point. And maybe you don't use it for a whole process, but maybe you use it for one little small piece of something. And I'm sure we're going to get more into that in
Yeah.
the later conversation.
Yeah, Michelle is saying AI as well as store shopping online. Yeah, I think we're going to be shopping more and more online, which is going to impact as well. All right, so why don't you give us a bit of an update? I mean, the Women in Supply Chain Forum is coming up in November. You just announced the awards last month. We've got a lot of those women being featured in our Women in Supply Chain series as a part of our collaboration and our partnership. And I cannot wait to talk to them and also let the community hear about their journeys as well. But talk to us about the forum. What's a bit of the update? What did the awards really showcase for you this year? Because I think there's some really exciting stats that came out of it. And what can we expect to see at the forum?
Yeah, so the awards we just closed, we had 426 submissions, and then we had 341 winners. The stats are so interesting because last year we only had 75 applications from male counterparts for women in supply chain, and this year we had 118. Wow. So that directly correlates with kind of what we're trying to do with the forum and getting men involved and getting men to kind of join in this crusade, if you will. As far as self-nominations, last year we had 12. This year we had 39. So that's a lot of women taking charge and standing up and saying, you know, this is what I'm doing. This is why it's important. This is why I think it's powerful. And I think that's so incredible. I know last year at the forum, that was a key piece of information we were kind of spreading is like self-advocacy. And I think that's going to fuel into this year at the forum and just turn it completely upside down and make it even better.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that was something that, because I keynoted last year, and I know that was something that I spoke to the audience kind of about, because our Woman in Supply Chain series, I see too often that we, create this incredible content and really get to understand their journeys, and then it falls flat because we're not actually promoting the episode or the blog and really showcasing, who we are and what we do with the community. And so that's, I think, going to be another big topic at the forum again as well. What are some of the speakers? Can you talk to us a little bit about what we can expect from the forum? Like who's going to be speaking? Who are we going to hear from?
Yeah, so we have our keynote is Katie Date. Keynote Katie Date. She was at MIT. Now she's at Manifest. I think her keynote is going to be really great.
She's great.
Opener. Yeah, and she's also doing kind of like this year. We decided to do something different with having a little offshoot, a workshop, if you will. And I'm excited to see how that goes. I think she's got some great ideas of getting the audience really involved. And since you were there last year, you know that our audience is very involved. It's very much a conversation. We have a lot of talk about workplace environment, kind of growing in your workforce, and whether that be just as a woman or just as someone in supply chain in general, it's a market that's nuanced and different. It depends on where you work. And this year we're also inviting from the award side as it goes, food and SDC. So before SDC was just strictly the Women in Supply Chain Award, and then now we brought it over to food. So I think the audience is going to be a little bit more diverse in that aspect too, and that's probably going to open a bigger field for conversation.
Yeah, and we're proud to be the presenting sponsor as Let's Talk Supply Chain and the Blended Pledge. And I'm going to be on stage with Marina, and we're going to be interviewing the top winners of Women in Supply Chain as well. I'm going to be asking them some fun, but also some very necessary questions as well. All right, so let's get to our first article. Now, I do not remember how I came across this particular article, but I'm so glad that I did. When I was doing the research for this particular show and I was reading through this article, now this is written by a graduate student about why diversity matters at conferences. Now, I've been talking about this a lot, but we're hearing from the next generation. A couple of the key benefits that they mention in this particular article is that it contributes to advances in the industry. They're able to make connections and they're able to create collaborations as well. One of the other key things that they address in this particular article as well is the stressors of being a graduate student or even an underrepresented voice going to a conference. One of those is financial burden. Now, obviously, with the blended pledge, we are helping with that because we're giving away grants to cover travel expenses so diverse voices can say yes to speaking engagements. So the link is in the comments right now, whether you want to apply, whether you want to donate, whether you want to volunteer. We've got lots of ways to get involved with this. But it's the number one stressor for us to see more diversity on industry stages. They also said it's hosted in dangerous climates. So depending on their background and who they are as an individual or an underrepresented voice, they said it's only in English. Not something that I really thought about, but it makes a lot of sense. Sometimes they need to get visas, and there's also low representation of other underrepresented voices, which also creates a stressor for diverse voices thinking about going to a conference. Now, what did you think when you read this particular article, Alexis? I know I went through a lot, but there is a lot in this article to still go over and talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance here. Me personally, I started reading this and I started thinking back to conferences I've gone to where maybe I was the only female there. And yeah, you do feel a little out of your element, like a fish out of water, and you're trying to navigate, getting the information you want from the conference, because obviously you're there for a reason, but then having to deal with those outside stressors of, like it says in here, being maybe financial, maybe just being the only person that looks like you there. And I think that's one thing, if I can toot our own horn for our own forum, that's something we want to bring to the table, where people look around and they do see people that maybe look like them and maybe do the same thing as them.
Yeah, and Mahmoud makes a great point. Is it online or offline? We're talking about in-person conferences more than we are online conferences, because I think it makes it a little bit easier, obviously, for people from around the world to attend if it's online. And some of these stressors that we talked about, obviously, would not be part of that necessarily for an online one as well. It talks about some of the great ways to bring diversity and inclusion to your conferences, because a lot of times when I'm talking to event organizers, it's like, well, how do we do that? I've gone and asked maybe a woman in supply chain to speak, and sometimes they will be like, I don't know if I'm the right person. Why don't you go and talk to a gentleman from my team, right? And so there are some nuances being an event coordinator to be able to think about how do we foster and empower more diversity at our events, especially when you're coming up against some of those things that, they're hearing as well. And so this article talks about some of the great ways. I'm not going to go through all of the great ways. We have put the link to the article in the comments. So go and read it, because I highly recommend that you read this to get some food for thought about conferences and how you're talking to those conferences. Maybe you're a sponsor to those conferences, and maybe this will spark an idea to put into your contract with those conferences to make them think a little bit differently about diversity and inclusion. What do you think?
Yeah, I love that idea. Or just you as a person, if you're going to visit a conference, maybe this isn't something that's on your radar, but maybe if you're the only woman in the room, you go find that other woman. Maybe there's one hidden in the back, and you can kind of communicate and make them feel a little more comfortable. And in turn, it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. And it doesn't have to be a gender thing. It could be, anything that makes you unique and different. And that's what we love. We love people that are different.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about our second article. Now, I went in search of some women supporting women, some advice coming from some female founders, because a lot of times when we're talking about women in supply chain, we're talking about women who are in a variety of different roles, but we're not necessarily focusing on women founders. Right? I'm a woman in supply chain. I'm also an entrepreneur. And that also has a lot of challenges. But what I liked from this particular article was getting advice from some of those female founders of what they've really learned as an entrepreneur and thinking about being in business. One of the things that they talked about was joining groups. So, like we're talking about today, going and getting out there, going to the Woman in Supply Chain Forum, right? Listening, promoting a Woman in Supply Chain series like we have on the podcast and the blog. Or we've got that Woman in Supply Chain monthly meetup group, join that, because what they're saying is that it's important for us all to come together and really learn from each other and figure out ways to move the industry, ourselves, our personal lives, our professional lives forward. What did you think of this particular article? I've got a couple more things to contribute, but I want to hear from you.
There's some great little tidbits. The one that I really love is taking up space. As a woman, you feel like you want to take up as little space, and that goes from all facets of just being a female in society in general. That part really spoke to me, especially as you come into an industry that is, I know we spoke when we had our interview on your podcast, but
yes,
when you're in a space that's male dominated, I was in the military in a space that was male dominated, and I didn't feel like I had the opportunity to take up space, and no one ever told me that, So reading that and hearing from someone who is a founder and CEO of something, and they're saying, yes, you can do that. It's your prerogative, and you should.
Yeah. So what was your experience like being in the Woman in Supply Chain series and being on the
Amazing.
podcast?
So great. We had a great conversation. It's not often that I get to talk about different aspects of my life pre-supply chain and how I kind of got here. And as well as I do that it's crazy how I got here. And I'm happy to be here. I love what I do now, and I wouldn't want to work anywhere else.
Yeah. And so I encourage everybody to go and listen to Alexis's episode because it talks all about your journey. Now, some of the things that they talked about, which I really liked, was stop multitasking, stop comparing, stop being quiet, profit from profit, find female mentors and community, which is what we spoke about a little bit earlier, and expect the unexpected and run with it. Now, one of the interesting stats that I read in this particular article was that investing in women actually stimulates economic growth and healthier communities. Now, what have we been talking about recently? We've been talking about economic growth and how do we get there? What do we do? Well, this article talks about one of the strategies to get there is to invest in women-founded businesses, which I thought was really interesting because everybody's kind of like, what do we do? Like, how do we get out of this? Well, we can invest in underrepresented voices. We can invest in women-owned businesses. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, and it fills the void, right? We're on top of economic stuff. We're talking about shortages in workers, and if you look at other businesses that maybe can offer to fill a void that maybe you're missing because you don't have the workforce or you don't have the capability to outsource something, go for it. Find those little places where I think people can help, and they can come from all walks of life.
Yeah, absolutely. So go and check out the advice in this particular article. I think, it's going to resonate with you in a variety of different ways, like it has with Alexis and I. But now we're going to change some gears because Alexis wrote an article about AI in supply chain. Now, you all know from what Alexis just said is that she hasn't been in supply chain her whole life. And I love this article that you wrote. So I'm going to bring it up. And the smart future of supply chain management and AI. Why did you write this article? So talk to us about this. Why did you write it? AI is such a hot topic right now, but I want to hear from you why it was so important.
Yeah, it's a hot topic, and I really questioned like what are the drawbacks? Because from everything you hear, AI is doing incredible things. It's helping people do this, it's helping people do
Mhm.
that. I wanted to know what are the worries? What are the concerns with using AI for supply chain management? Are there any? And yeah, there are. There's definitely security concerns
Mhm.
because people aren't used to sharing data in this way or having access to this data. People aren't being hesitant in how they share it. And I learned that, maybe you should. It's kind of a yes and no question because we don't know what the future really holds or what the possibilities are. But that was something that was a key takeaway for me. And that was really the driving question that got me to write this article.
What was the most surprising thing for you when you were when you were writing this particular, or and maybe even researching this article? And I know there's a lot of concerns about AI. I had somebody on the show just a little while ago. I don't know if the episode has come out yet, but they were talking about how we're giving away our data. Like
Right.
every time we log into a system or an online platform, to find out some information about necessarily like a container or things like that. And how do we bring that data and hold on to that data a little bit more? So it's interesting that you said that. But what is the most surprising thing from the research and writing this article?
Yeah, this blog series I have, Alexis Ask, I've covered AI before, and something that I took away from both times is just the small capability. Because in my head, I'm thinking of like sci-fi movies that I watched when I was a kid, and like AI is like the Terminator or something like that. But it's the small ways that AI is impacting,
Mm,
especially management, because you can do things like maybe you don't have time to write an email, so you pull up ChatGPT and you plug in some keywords, and you're able to use that and free up some other space to do something else in your field or in your day. And those little things, it's just something that never really crossed my mind, and I think people are seeing now the use in those ways. But it's surprising to me.
well, I use Chat GPT, I think, to see what information was out there about Let's Talk Supply Chain. I think it wrote a whole rap.
I love that.
I think I posted it on LinkedIn. I don't even know how long ago because March seems like 2 years ago. So it could have been like February, March, but I can't really remember. I mean, it's kind of crazy some of the things, but also when you're looking at Chat GPT, what year is that information coming from? And I
Right.
think there's different versions that bring us up to 2023, but the free version really, I think, hovers around 2021. So being careful of how you're using that information and also bringing it up to date. Now, when I was at DPW last week, I had the chance to interview some really, really cool people. One of them was Michelle, and in her keynote on stage, she talked about how half the companies that are out there as far as technology actually won't exist at the turn of the century.
Wow.
And so when I was reading your article, and I talked to a lot of different technology providers about AI and what they're doing in AI, et cetera, it just sort of made me think about what she said last week and how are we going to use this technology to benefit us, but how are we going to partner with these companies to make sure that they are going to be there and that we are going to be able to grow together. And so it's very much about collaboration and using AI to bring everybody together as well to make sure that we're all successful in the future. Now, Yossi Sheffy was also on stage last week. He's got a new book out. I don't know if you guys want to go and check that out. I can't remember what it's called. Something about a magic carpet. But he was very, very upfront and was like, listen, it is going to replace functions. There is no doubt it is going to replace functions. It could replace whole jobs. But what you need to think about now and what organizations need to think about now is how are we upskilling? Where are we going to move those people? We still need the people. We still need the creativity, the innovation, the strategy. How are we going to move those people into new roles? And how do we start upskilling right now? And so was that a concern that kind of came up within your research? Because I know a lot of people ask about it.
Yeah, and people do worry, like, am I going to lose my job? Even me as an editor and writer, I see
It's true.
ChatGPT writing articles, and I'm thinking, oh no, I'm going to be out of a job in a couple years. But I think it is that collaboration piece, because as far as it is right now, and I can't predict 10 years down the road, but you still need that person behind the scenes that has the knowledge to plug in whatever kind of information that you're feeding these algorithms to get that answer. So for now, it's a partnership, it's a collaboration. In the future, I don't know, there might be Terminator. I honestly, I don't know if I hope so or hope not. I'm not sure. But if we can get a hold on how we use these technology advancements as they come, I think we'll be better off in the long run.
With all of our eyes open. All right. I want to let you all know where we are going to be. So next week, I'm in Houston for the NMFTA Digital Solutions Conference, all about cybersecurity, which I am super excited about. I'm going to be creating some interviews on site. And then, of course, November 1st, we've got our LinkedIn Live coming up with Esker, all about AI. And then I'm going to be in San Francisco, November 5th through 7th for the Bloom Envision Conference. If you have not registered for that yet, you need to be there. I mean, some of the top people from Microsoft, I think in Google and Apple, and so much great information is going to be there. And then, of course, we've got the Women in Supply Chain Forum, November 14th and 15th, not just for women, it's open for everybody. So go and register. I'd love to see you there. And then, of course, we've got Manifest happening next February 5th through 7th. Alexis, thank you so much for joining me. And to everybody at home, I hope you have an amazing week ahead.
Thank you.